My name's Isaac Pettit. The other pilots know me as Zach Machina, and I've been flying FPV since 2019. And during that time, so it's been about 4 years now, there have been so many ways that FPV has opened doors for me. In that time, it's helped me learn more about soldering, more about 3D printing and modeling. It's taught me so much about business and helped me really expand myself. And that's something that I would say has been a core part of what FPV has been for me and why it's been something that I have continued to stick with all this time, because there's always something new that you can be learning and always something new to be growing in. Now, when I got hooked on FPV, it was kind of funny because I was with a friend and we were watching DRL on his TV. I was in his house, and he's somebody who owns a hobby shop still, and he has sold different drone parts, and he's been involved in the RC world and stuff like that. And one of the things that he said while he was watching was, man, that is so incredible that these pilots have the skills to be able to fly like this. I could never do that. And what I said back was, I could do that. I could definitely do that. Give me just a little bit of time to get the muscle memory down, but I'm confident that I could do that. And he didn't believe me, but then there was the ad for the DRL simulator, and it kind of started a bet. So it was a way for me to cheaply kind of get started and learn more about FPV and what it means to fly and be a pilot. And we just got so competitive with each other as we kind of were learning how to fly FPV in the simulator every single day, practicing to see if we could get a leg up on the other person and be better than them. And so that really is what kind of fueled my start into FPV and what got me going and what got me super excited about it was just that challenge of, you can't do this. And I said, yes, I can. Probably one of the most memorable moments for me, it's been 4 years now, was when my friend took me to my first ever cinewhoop race. So that was a different guy, actually an employee of the hobby shop owner at the time, but he was somebody that I met through this. He helped me build my first whoop, and he took me to my first cinewhoop race. And that still is really funny, but it's still a pretty popular video on YouTube to this day. Even though he doesn't really typically upload YouTube videos, he put that one up and it still gets several thousand views, and it's still getting views to this day, which is kind of funny because it was my first race. But I do remember so much of that race so vividly. I remember the people that I met and the people who were helping me out and the race director and, you know, who got what place and all of that. So really that first race that you go to is going to be an experience that you'll probably never forget. I will say that there have been a ton of challenges with FPV though. They pretty much don't stop, especially at first. Even 4 years in, there are different things that I struggle with. But especially early on, I struggled a lot with figuring out, I was flying angle mode. So like, how do you handle like the slight drifts that happen, because it just was a little imperfect. Learning to fly around that, learning how to download and use Betaflight, learning what my rates should be, learning how to solder. One of the big things was even just figuring out like, how do all of these components go together to even make a cinewhoop? You know, like how do you actually put this thing together? What are all of the components of a drone? Those were so many things that I found challenging early on. And those are things that I'm now seeking to help people with through my own FPV YouTube channel. But yeah, those are the things that I struggled with and definitely want to help other people with as well. Now, there is a lot that goes into actually getting up into the air, as you can imagine. And so I'd say I probably didn't buy my first really anything drone related until about maybe 2 or 3 weeks into flying the simulator. And so by that point, I had already had 20 hours of practice in the simulator, probably more than that, honestly. And I was using an Xbox controller at first, and then later I borrowed a transmitter to use for the simulator. But yeah, probably a little bit after that, that's when I bought my first set of goggles and my first radio, and then I talked to my friend and got all of the parts that I needed to build my first cinewhoop, and he helped me with that. So that was when I first flew an actual drone. Was probably, it was less than a month in, but probably around that timeline. And then I would say probably within 3 or 4 months after that, that was the first time that I had flown a 5-inch. So because of all of the challenges that exist when it comes to actually figuring out FPV and figuring out the drone and all of that type of stuff, as well as how hard it is to actually fly, what I usually like to do is I like to break down that process as much as possible for pilots. So my recommendation is to not take all of those things on all at once. You're just going to overwhelm yourself, and you can have a lot of fun really quickly with minimal knowledge. And so that's what I recommend. The first thing I recommend is, one, just learning that muscle memory for how to move the sticks and how to fly, and then kind of ease yourself into some of the more advanced aspects of drone building and all of that stuff. And so for that reason, what I like to do is I like to recommend that every beginner would start on a simulator. So my favorite one is Velocidrone, but I would recommend that every single pilot start on a simulator. Now, not everybody has a computer to do that or the means to do that, and some people just don't like to do that. I think of the simulator as like a video game, and I really enjoy video games. So for me, I actually have a lot of fun, even just in the evening, sitting down and flying in the simulator. But there are a lot of people who that's just not good enough for, and I totally understand that, because you want to go out and you want to fly the real thing as soon as possible. And so if that's you, then some of the beginner kits can be a good option. So I know that BETAFPV has a couple, such as the Cetus Pro, and those are going to give you the goggles and the radio and the drone and everything you need to get started right away. And so that can be a good option if you're that type of person that's like, hey, I just want to get into the air as soon as possible. But I will also say that you might outgrow some of those things, especially the goggles, pretty fast. You might be looking to upgrade, but that's okay. That's not really a problem. It's just a matter of taking those steps that you need to take to get into the hobby and get into the air and get flying. And so if that's you, if you're someone who's like, hey, I really just want to get into the air, then yeah, I probably would say get yourself a beginner kit and start there, because that's going to be the easiest, most complete solution to flying. Because even if you buy a pre-built drone, like this one that I have here, this one I won as a prize, but what you're going to find is that you still have to go into Betaflight. You have to download that software. You have to get everything set up how it needs to be. Like, even though this is a complete pre-built drone that you can get out of the box, it's not going to be totally ready to fly. You're still going to have some know-how. You're still going to have to do some of that configuration before you can actually get up in the air. Now, if you are a beginner and you're getting in, whether you're getting started with a simulator, whether you're getting one of these beginner kits from BETAFPV, or however you're going, there are so many tips that you have to know. And so I honestly can't even give them all to you. There's just so many out there, from choosing what parts to buy, from what gear to buy, what drone to buy, how do you configure it, what camera should you use, what angle should it be at, what rate should you have, how should you tune it. There's so many things that I could give you as a tip, but probably the main thing I would say right now is just stick with it. Don't give up. Everybody has frustrating times. Find somebody to reach out to, find a community, get plugged into a community, especially races. That's such a huge thing. When you go and you show up to a race, you're going to meet 10 other people there who are all people who are really passionate about this, who want to be doing this, who have been doing this, and those are going to be people who are going to be able to help you out the most. My recommendation is to get to a race as soon as possible. That's my absolute number one tip for beginners. And if not a race, then find community. You know, if you're just in the simulator, you know, find other people in the simulator that you can talk to, or even find races that are hosted in the simulator that you can attend. But especially if you get a beginner kit, or as soon as you get a real drone or whatever else, you absolutely have to right away get plugged into community. And the easiest way to do that is to show up to a race. So I know a lot of people make excuses. They say, hey, you know what? I'm a beginner. I'm going to get in the way. I don't want to interfere with other people. Don't let that stop you. People say, I'm not good enough yet. I want to make sure that when I show up to a race, like I've earned it, like I'm worthy of it, and that I can finish well. You're not going to finish well at your first race. It doesn't matter how many hours you put in. But you still have to show up and go to your first race anyway, because that's how you're going to meet people. That's how you're going to get connected with people who know a lot more than you. And those are going to be the people that are able to save you so much time and headache and help you out and get you on the path that you want to be on and in the air, so you can keep enjoying the hobby. Even today, I had somebody reach out to me who I knew because they had shown up to one of the races that I've hosted, and they reached out to me, and I was able to help them with an issue that they otherwise we're going to have a really tough time with. So get plugged into those people, get plugged into your local races. They're going to help you so much. And also on that note, one last thing, keep in mind that if you are expecting to get better as a pilot and earn your way into one of these races, well, what you're doing is you're trying to do that by staying at home when you have all of these other people who are all working together, who are all getting together and racing every single week and having a blast while they're doing it, and you're staying at home expecting to catch up to them. It's not going to happen. So if you want to get better at this hobby, if you want to have an easy time with it, absolutely the biggest tip that I can give you is show up to a race, find people near you even before you feel like you're ready. You're not going to be a burden to them. They're going to be so happy that you're there, and they're going to be happy to help get you on the right track and help you figure out the things that you need to figure out. And that's something that I've been really committed to personally, even just beyond the local level. I see myself as someone who has the responsibility of helping spread good information to pilots. And that's something that I've dedicated myself to, is helping other pilots in the hobby, both locally and throughout the US and the entire world. And so one of the aspects of that I pride myself in is that I don't take any sponsorships, and that's because I want to have the freedom to be able to test all of these different components, test all of the different flight controllers, cameras, you name it. I've pretty much tested them all, and to give my own honest feedback without the filter of having to cater to what a sponsor tells me I have to say. And so to just be totally honest about my thoughts and feelings about that and give that information to the rest of the world. So that's where I see myself in the hobby, and you can see here that I absolutely do take that kind of serious. I've got all kinds of parts and tiny whoops and everything that I do test all the time. And so if you're interested in learning more from me and hearing more from me, I'm going to put my YouTube channel right here, and you can go ahead and look that up and learn more. My vision for what I want to see FPV to grow into in the future, as well as basically what I'm working on doing to make that happen, revolves around helping the hobby become more accessible to more pilots, helping people get the resources that they need to learn what they need to learn, to tackle what seems like a mountain sometimes of all of this learning that you have to do to get into the hobby. So I want to spread the joy of the hobby and how fun it actually is to participate in, as well as helping other people gain the confidence in themselves that I got from participating in this hobby and just being a part of that. And so one of the ways that I do that is with my racing league that I host, which is Underground Whoop League. And the whole purpose of that is to help make racing more accessible to pilots, both who are looking to get started for the first time and improve their skills, as well as accessible to people who have maybe never seen racing before and are just getting exposed to it for the first time. So that's kind of my vision. That's kind of what I'm hoping to achieve through my league and through my YouTube channel, because FPV has just had such an impact on me personally. I can say that without it, I would be a completely different person, especially as it relates to the way that I view the world, the way that I view business, even my career path, the way that I view my ability to learn new skills and tackle obstacles. Those are all things that have drastically changed for me since 2019 when I got into this. And so I can't honestly even imagine what my life would be like without FPV at this point, because it's just done so much for me. And that's something that I want to be able to spread to other people. So hopefully you guys feel inspired to get in the air, get your first drone, get your first kit, whatever, start flying, show up to a race, and start learning all of the different things that there is to learn and meeting new friends along the way.